has closed one lane, expected to clear by 7:05. In Surrey, a collision on the M3 westbound between junction 2 and 3 has closed 2 lanes, causing 20 minutes of delay. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast faces major disruption between Milton Keynes Central and London Euston. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's the final week to see how you can win big, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? The holiday of a lifetime? Or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Hamas claims victory over the potential UK recognition of Palestine. Has Keir Starmer jumped the gun far too early on this? I can report now that we know nearly 900 people have crossed the English Channel today. It's been absolute chaos out there as they nearly all came at the same time. And yet, as Greece starts to arrest people that arrive on their islands, we have a paedophile who's been spared from deportation. And at the end today, I'll be joined on Talking Pints by American Conservative commentator Ann Coulter, and we'll find out how well she thinks the Trump trip went. All of that and much more in just a moment. First, let's get the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Nigel. Good evening to you. It's 7 o'clock. Your headlines. Airlines across the UK are dealing with delays after an air traffic control failure caused major disruption this afternoon. Approximately 45 departures have been cancelled, along with 35 arrivals, although those numbers may well grow. Heathrow was worst affected for cancellations, and more than a dozen flights en route there were diverted. Air traffic control provider NAT says the system's been restored, but delays are expected. Ryanair has called for the head of the organisation to resign over what it's described as an outrageous technical error. A student's been found guilty of assaulting 2 female police officers and a member of the public at Manchester Airport last summer. A jury at Liverpool Crown Court found Mohammed Fahir Amaz, seen here on the right, guilty on 3 counts of assault. The jury were unable to reach a verdict, though, on one further count of assaulting another police officer involving Amaz and his brother Mohammed Ahmad. There will now be a retrial on that charge, which has been welcomed by Greater Manchester Police. The chairman of its federation, Mike Peake, says it shows the worst side of police work his officers are faced with. A British brother and sister aged 11 and 13 have been confirmed to have drowned off the east coast of Spain. They were swimming off a beach in the town of Salou in Catalonia. Their father, who was also in the water, was rescued. Officials had originally reported the 2 children to die had both been boys. Palestine Action's been granted permission to challenge its ban by the UK government as a terror organisation. The High Court has ruled the Home Secretary's prescription of the group under anti-terror laws should be reviewed. Yvette Cooper banned the organisation last month after activists caused an estimated £7 million worth of damage to military planes at RAF Bryce Norton. However, the group has failed in its bid for a temporary pause of the ban until that challenge is heard at the High Court. And Ozzy Osbourne's family joined fans in paying an emotional farewell to the heavy metal star during a procession in Birmingham. A tearful Sharon Osbourne, who was married to Ozzy for more than 4 decades, added a rose to the hundreds of floral tributes and balloons laid around the Black Sabbath bench as people in the crowd chanted his name. And she was joined by family members, including children Kelly and Jack. Tens of thousands gathered to pay their respects as Ozzy's body was transported in a hearse topped by a purple floral tribute in the shape of a cross. A private funeral is expected to take place tomorrow. Those are your headlines. I'll have more at 8 o'clock. Now it's back to Nigel.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. Well, I said last night on this show that I felt that all of this was premature, that the time to recognise the state of Palestine was not now, as the danger was it would be seen as giving something of a victory to Hamas. I also said last night that I felt that the demands that were being made on Israel were far greater than the demands that were being made on a new Palestinian state. Well, sure as eggs is eggs, a man called Bassem Naam, a senior figure in Hamas today, said victory and liberation are closer than we expected. Now, obviously, by saying that, he's giving the British government a fair degree of significance. Trump, of course, last week said that when Macron said he'd recognise the state, it was irrelevant. But, hey, this is good news for Hamas, I think. Now, Emily Damari, you'll remember, she was the British hostage that I campaigned so hard for and got released. And she said today, this does not advance peace. It risks rewarding terror. It sends a dangerous message that violence earns legitimacy. Now, I know that you viewers of this channel have very, very split views on this question. Whilst I hope that everybody who watches GB News was appalled by the mass murder, rape and torture that took place on October the 7th, I know many people are very, very worried about how Israel has behaved and the sheer number of deaths that have taken place in Gaza. But I still feel that Emily Damari is right on this. I think this is rewarding Hamas. So give me your thoughts. Are Hamas right in claiming victory? Tweet #Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. I'm joined by studio regular Kwasi Kwarteng, former MP and former Chancellor. And I'm joined for the first time on this show by Jeff Hoon, former Defence Secretary and Labour MP. Long retired from politics, though, Jeff.
Long retired.
You've joined the real world. Jeff, you've got a bit of history in this area, haven't you?
In 1999, I went to Gaza and met Yasser Arafat. I was in Israel discussing what was then a live peace process. We were discussing the final stages, borders, the arrangements for Jerusalem. We were actually discussing water rights. Curiously, because of Britain's history in Palestine, we had maps showing watercourses that were vital to any drawing or redrawing of boundaries. So I look at the present tragic situation with a great deal of sadness, because at that stage it seemed that a peace was at hand, that it could be achieved. Of course, that all went wrong at Camp David, and since then it's been one catastrophe after another.
Because just a few years after those negotiations saw the real rise of Hamas, didn't it?
It did, and I think part of that was frustration with the then Palestinian leadership, who were offered, in my opinion, a good deal at Camp David. They were certainly offered a deal. I put my own construction on the good part of it. But nevertheless, they had the opportunity there of a lasting peace. They turned it down, and necessarily the extremists then came in.
And how do you view the decision by Keir Starmer yesterday?
I think it's a gamble, but I understand why Britain and indeed France and other allies feel the need to change the dynamic of the situation. I recognise that they are unlikely to persuade Netanyahu to agree to what they have asked for. But there's one aspect of this which I think is really important. They refer to the West Bank, and sadly, in the tragedy of what has taken place in Gaza, not enough attention has been given to the West Bank. Without the West Bank, there can be no Palestinian state. And what we have seen in recent years is a colonisation, frankly, of the West Bank by Israeli settlers. I can recall times when Israeli governments evicted settlers because it was contrary to international law and indeed to Israeli law. That is not happening. The present government are encouraging settlement.
I think that's a view that will be shared by many, actually, on the West Bank, but we can't change the past, Kwasi, but we can make decisions about now and try to look for a better future.
It's very interesting that Jeff went to Gaza, because this is actually the first panel where both of us, both the panellists, have actually been there. I went there in 2010 as part of an MP delegation. And the world is very different from what it was in 2010, and certainly...
But Hamas in 2010 was still the main force.
Yeah, they were. What happened there was that essentially the West Bank was under Fatah, they're called, the PLA authority, and what Hamas did was essentially take over Gaza. So there's been this fundamental split over the last, I think it was 2006-07. There's been a fundamental split in the Palestinian Authority, and I have to say that when viewers say, and Emily, the hostage, said, this is a victory for Hamas, and the Hamas guy himself said the same thing, I think they're both right. And I think the worry about recognising the Palestinian state is that essentially you're endorsing acts of terror. Now, you and I might think differently, and there are nuances and all the rest of it, but the top line is that, OK, these guys did appalling acts in 2023, October.
And they've said they would do it again and again and again. There's no repentance for what they did whatsoever.
Sure. And then only, barely 2 years later, not even, we're saying we're going to recognise the Palestinian state. And optically, that looks like essentially a reward for the outrages that they committed.
It's a fair point Kwasi makes.
I think he makes a fair point in the short term, but what I think Britain and France are trying to achieve is a much more strategic approach to this problem. And the strategy must be to encourage the moderates on both sides. The tragedy of the situation at the moment is that on both sides, Hamas and indeed, sadly, the Israeli government are extremists. And we need to find ways of getting back to a situation where the moderates are able to argue for peace in Israel. There are large numbers of people in Israel who want peace, who want to settle with Palestinians. There are large numbers of Palestinians who do not support Hamas. And indeed, there have been demonstrations in Gaza against Hamas.
But Jeff, what you can't get away from is the fact that the recognition, if that's what we're doing, of the Palestinian state, will be interpreted, as that man said from Hamas, as a victory for Hamas. Whether we like it or not, they will take this as a victory.
Yeah, I mean,
they will say that it's because of what they did that they've actually got recognition from...
There's a big violence pays. There's a big violence pays
That's the issue. That's a big fundamental problem.
That's certainly the short term. As I say, I think what the government is trying to do is put down a marker for the future. Netanyahu will not be there forever. No. We need to find ways in which we can once again establish a peace process. The tragedy in the Middle East is there's no process. I often compare Israel and Palestine to the Northern Ireland peace process. In the Northern Ireland, there's no end state. No unionist will agree with Sinn Féin about what they want to see as the future of Northern Ireland. But what there is a process, and that process has given us relative peace for a very long time now.
But what's
in the
happened?
Middle East, let me finish. In the Middle East, we don't have a process. We have an end state. We all agree on a two-state solution. The reality is no process. We've got to find a process.
But that can only work. You know, Northern Ireland worked in the end because both sides said, right, OK, you know, you give this, we'll give that, and we can argue which side gave more. But both sides accepted the premise. Hamas, there are no terms on which they accept the premise.
And they haven't had actually, I mean, you made this point earlier in the segment, they haven't actually made any concessions whatsoever.
No.
I mean, and there's no parallel recognition on their part of the State of Israel. So what we're doing is essentially saying, OK, you can have your Palestinian state, but we're not making them, as I think we should, recognise Israel's right to exist as an imbalance.
That was the thing,
which I think is very could be quite dangerous.
Interestingly, this debate we're having, I'm sure, has been happening in the halls of government with politicians and advisors and many, and they'll have argued the pros and cons, as we just have for the last 10 minutes. Question is, why is he doing it and why
So
now?
look, my view, you know, let's get political here.
Yeah, we will.
I think you've got a problem on the left in British politics. Keir Starmer, we just saw 2 weeks ago, or 10 days ago, Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana launch this left party. The left party will have a very clear view on this issue. They will be very pro-Palestine.
Oh, absolutely.
You had a number of Labour MPs remarkably lose their seats in what was a landslide election. About half a dozen of them lost their seats to the Gaza independents.
Yeah, and 133 backbenchers already publicly signed up to say...
And so, for a Labour Prime Minister, given the electoral mathematics, I can see why he would do what he's threatening to do in terms of recognising the Palestinian state. I think it's wrong, but I understand the political dynamics in his coalition.
I mean, Jeff, you were there through some remarkable years of, you know, a strong leader, a big majority, not much trouble on the left. I mean, a little bit after Iraq, perhaps, but the shape of the Labour Party and the threat from the left has changed fundamentally, hasn't it?
But I think it's simplistic simply to see it in party political terms. There are large numbers of people in this country who are extraordinarily concerned about the Palestinian situation, and therefore they vote accordingly, which is the point that you've just made very well. So I don't think it's just about the House of Commons or Labour members of Parliament.
It never is.
It's about a wider picture of our society.
But it never is about one thing. But you understand parliamentary... I wouldn't call them games, but there's arithmetic.
I was the government chief.
Yeah, of course, you were involved in all of that. and it's
a very good answer. Let's be honest.
So you know, as I do, that those dynamics are very important. And if you're trying to keep this left coalition, which it is, the Labour Party is now a coalition. There are people who barely on speaking terms. And if you're trying to keep them together, I can see why an issue like this might be something they will rally around.
I mean, Labour has never faced a genuine electoral challenge from the left. It just hasn't. But it's about to, isn't it?
I don't believe that Jeremy Corbyn's party will make much progress. I think it will disappear, actually, after a fairly short space of time. I don't think there's room in a two-party system for another party of the left, and the reality is that they will not last for terribly long.
There is a demographic change that's occurred.
Well,
and a fundamental demographic change that's occurred. And you look at these northern towns or cities, and you see certain areas with a very dense Pakistani, Kashmiri, because that's mostly what these votes are. And that is changing. I mean, the point I'm making to you is that is changing politics.
But look, even beyond that, I mean, Jeff had a phrase, he said the two-party system. The two-party system, as we know it, is dead. I mean, you and
I realise this is... I realise that
we've got
wasn't perhaps the best way of putting it.
In the world that we're in now, we've got 5 or 6 parties.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's no reason why Labour should have a monopoly on the left. You've already got Greens, you've got elements of the Lib Dems, you've got, obviously, the SNP in Scotland, all of these different parties.
Quasi, the strongest factor on the left seems to me, and you know, we talked about Northern Ireland earlier, we've now got sectarian voting in England. Do you accept that?
And that certainly concerns me. I've been concerned for a long time about the way in which, for example, the politics of the Indian subcontinent end up on the streets of Birmingham. That cannot be right. And we need to find a way of ensuring that people vote along democratic lines, not along historic division.
But this is the point.
If only is what I'm going to say.
But this is the point that we were making about the two-party system. I mean, I was amazed. The most amazing thing last year was these Gaza independents. They got 6 seats. I remember West Streeting only came home, what, with 500 votes?
5, actually, but they're probably on course.
5.
I think they're on course to win 25 or 30 next time. Enough. We're going to return to the Rotherham grooming gang, rape gang scandal. In some ways, I think the whole thing's got even worse as direct accusations are being made that the police didn't just cover things up, but that police officers were actively involved in those sexual crimes. And yet, to date, not a single policeman in Rotherham has been charged.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Some of your thoughts from home on what's happening and the claims that, yes, it's a big victory for Hamas. Daniel says Starmer is creating conditions that he knows that Israel cannot comply. All Hamas has to do is, as they're currently doing, refuse to agree to a ceasefire. Letty says we are rewarding Hamas. They are terrorists, short and to the point. And Maggie finally says everyone's ignoring the fact that Israel has agreed to every sensible ceasefire proposal put forward by the US and Qatar. It's Hamas who is refusing a ceasefire. Would you agree with that point, Jeff, or not?
Not every.
Not quite. No, okay.
Not every proposal.
I was a former negotiator. I had to come back. Now, this just gets worse. You know, we know that the authorities, social services, elected councillors and the police turned a complete blind eye to the mass rape scandal that took place in Rotherham. We've also, many, many times questioned why the police failed to act. Was it fear of being called racist? Well, according to 5 women who've spoken to GB News, maybe it's because, believe it or not, some of the police themselves were directly involved in the abuse. And I did speak to one of the victims myself on the phone the other week, and I believed her evidence. Well, David Greenwood is a leading child abuse solicitor and involved with this case. He speaks to me from Wakefield. David, my understanding is that quite a few women have come forward over the years and made these accusations, and that to date, there's not been one single charge laid against a police officer.
That's right. The National Crime Agency, if you will recall, were drafted in because the Home Secretary at the time didn't trust South Yorkshire Police to do the investigations. The National Crime Agency, credit to them, did an excellent job of investigating some of the claims of direct abuse against the abusers themselves, but seem to have ignored some of the claims that police officers were involved in this. I became aware of these types of allegations in about 2018, and then tried to get the South Yorkshire Police or the National Crime Agency to be interested in them. There was no uptake. I knew that these agencies must have known that this had been alleged in a number of cases, but still they wanted to treat it as an internal discipline matter rather than a criminal matter.
Yeah,
so
and when it goes to IOPC or whatever, it's the police investigating themselves, effectively, isn't it?
Exactly. So I wanted the police to push it out to a different force to deal with it independently, so they weren't investigating themselves. And they refused that and came up with this fudge that the IOPC would oversee their investigation. And in truth, the IOPC don't have the expertise to do this. They're just rubber stamping what South Yorkshire Police are doing. And obviously South Yorkshire Police have a reputation to protect. And the girls, obviously, as you can imagine, don't have any trust in South Yorkshire Police in the first place. And so to have the same force investigate these types of allegations against police officers is not going to encourage women to come forward.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. David, thank you for joining us, and well done for representing these women. I mean, Jeff, you know, when this all really broke, I suppose 2014 was when it really all came out, the sheer extent and scale of it. You know, do you think that the Blair government, believing that diversity, that opening up the doors was an unconditional good, didn't it lead to some of this?
I don't accept that for a moment, and no one can excuse the appalling events that took place in Rotherham.
Sure.
And now we appear to know that those events were not closed, that there's more to it, involving, sadly, police officers.
Which is very shocking.
It's deeply shocking if that is true. There has been an inquiry. My feeling is perhaps that inquiry should look again at their findings, specifically focused on police officers' involvement.
But, I mean, you know, I talk about this diversity. I mean, it was perfectly clear that it was one particular community. It was predominantly Pakistani men, and we know that for an absolute fact. And yet, you know, whenever there are calls for there to be, you know, a full inquiry, the Labour government very reluctant.
Well, there was an inquiry, and that has looked at the situation, but it clearly did not consider the possible involvement of police officers, which is why I'm saying we could look again at this.
Well, we got to.
But the inquiry, the initial inquiry was much broader than what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with Jeff, actually, about the Labour government, because you've got to remember, a lot of these communities have been there for a very long time. I mean, you know, we've had Pakistani communities in the north for decades.
Yeah, no, these are second, third generation in some cases.
That's right.
Yeah,
so,
no,
I mean,
is true.
the real scandal is the fact that when these allegations came out, there was a cover-up, essentially. And that's where the real scandal is. And now we're dealing with potential police involvement. And like Jeff, I think we've got to be very careful before we jump to conclusions, because these allegations are new.
That's fine.
And we have to get to the bottom of them. But we've got to work out what actually has happened.
But the point that was made to me by the victim the other day, and she was, there's no doubt she was a victim. The point she made is, I have no trust in the police.
Yeah.
How could I, when they didn't do their job for years and years and years? And now I am saying specifically that I and many others were raped also by.
Well, we've got to get to the bottom of that. I mean,
but the point is this, and David Greenwood made the point too, that we're in a situation now where we're asking South Yorkshire Police to investigate South Yorkshire. So something's got to change, hasn't it? I mean,
it's perfectly possible for the Home Secretary to order another police authority
with
to
an outside authority.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
And
I mean, I think it's always a bad idea.
routinely done in these kinds of situations.
It's always a bad idea for them to mark their own homework. I mean, that seems.
Well, that's the accusation of what is. That is the accusation of what is going on here.
And we've had a problem. I mean, you know, I was as an MP. We had the appalling incident of Wayne Couzens. Now, Wayne Couzens and the Sarah Everard case, he essentially kidnapped, raped and murdered this woman. He had the highest degree of clearance. You know, he was in number 10, he was in Westminster, and the Met Police, I think, are dealing with this. I think Sir Mark Rowley is actually trying to clean up, up the situation. So it can be done. And I think, as Jeff said, we need to bring other people.
Yeah. Well, we've got to
look at what's happening.
We've got to do something. In a moment, let's discuss what really is one of the hottest topics in this country, which people really are talking about. That, of course, is the boats crossing the English Channel. And I can tell you that today, nearly 900 people have crossed the English Channel in small boats. Absolute chaos in the Channel. Smash the gangs, anyone?
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heatwave is now easing across parts of Greece and also parts of Turkey, but elsewhere across Europe, still some humid air creating thundery downpours. But across the west, particularly across Portugal, Spain, most of France, it's largely dry, plenty of sunshine. But across parts of Germany, northern parts of Italy, still a chance of some quite intense thundery downpours. And also still across parts of Greece and Bulgaria, we could start to see some outbreaks of rain. But otherwise, for the large majority, plenty of sunshine and warm temperatures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A thunderstorm warning has been issued for tomorrow across central and southeastern parts of England, so a chance that we could start to see some travel disruption. But for the time being, high pressure remaining largely dominant, particularly across the southwest. But this at times swinging in frontal systems, so that means more cloud, also some light outbreaks of rain to end the day across Scotland. But for most of the night, it should remain mostly dry. Then we need to draw our attention to areas of Wales, central parts of England. We'll start to see some showery outbreaks move their way through across dawn, and for all it is going to be quite a mild and muggy night to come. Some towns and cities not dropping much past 17 to 18 degrees Celsius. Then during the early hours of the morning across Scotland, once again it's set to be quite cloudy, possibly quite murky at times. Light outbreaks of rain in western areas, but across Aberdeenshire some of these areas of rain could turn quite heavy at times. A chance of some showers across Northern Ireland, but northern parts of England should remain mostly dry. Now, still plenty of showers across parts of Wales, perhaps some isolated showers too across parts of the southeast. And through the morning, we'll start to see more and more of these showers across the south, banding together to give persistent outbreaks of rain at times. And into the afternoon, this could also turn thundery, so we're likely to see some hail and also some frequent lightning. Also a chance we could see some thundery showers across eastern parts of Scotland and northeastern parts of England. But elsewhere, particularly across the west, there should still be plenty of sunshine. Another warm, muggy day to come, highs once again reaching around 25 degrees Celsius across the south. Now we'll see those showers ease away Thursday night, which means a much brighter day on Friday. Still a chance of showers mainly across eastern coasts, but these should be mostly light to moderate, and it could be quite breezy at times too across eastern coastal areas, but mostly dry into Saturday. Different story on Sunday though, as we see a return of outbreaks of rain move in from the west, but still once again warm in any sunshine.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A rise of reply from South Yorkshire Police Assistant Chief Constable Hayley Bennett. We know how hard it must be for a victim or survivor who has been so badly let down in the past to put their faith into the South Yorkshire Police of today. Victims and survivors have been and continue to be at the heart of this investigation, and all our actions continue to be made in their best interests. So there you are. Absolute chaos in the English Channel today, as a whole load of migrant boats pretty much came at the same time. It meant not just the three big border force vessels, but it meant that the lifeboats, the big lifeboats from Ramsgate, from Walmer, from Dover, from Dungeness, and a couple of other small inflatables were out assisting. We can announce now that the figure that will be announced tomorrow morning will be almost 900 people. And of course, you know the story. 90% of them will be men, and most of them very young men under the age of 30. It also now takes us through 25,000 that are across the English Channel so far this year, and which, when you look at the protests that are emerging outside hotels, this is becoming a hot issue. It potentially, actually, Jeff, becoming quite a dangerous issue, isn't it?
There was a demonstration in my former constituency only the other night, and clearly people are very angry.
Yeah.
But to be fair, the government is very angry. The government wants to reduce the numbers of people who are taken in by criminal gangs and pay large amounts of money to arrive in the UK on totally false premises. And it's vitally important that we all work together to deal with this threat.
But it's all well and good saying that. It's not working, is it?
I think it's too soon to say. We have had 12 months in government. We inherited a disastrous situation where people were put up in hotels, where crucially very little processing of asylum claims was taking place. Because bear in mind, you're dealing with raw numbers, the numbers crossing. Yeah. I'm not excusing that, but the reality is that those people are claiming asylum and they have to be processed under the law. And many of them will not qualify. By implication, you are suggesting...
But they won't get deported. I mean, the average level of deportations of those that cross the Channel is about 2%.
Recently, but in the past, that was not the case.
Well, the Labour government that you were part of, David Blunkett was Home Secretary, people that came illegally were deported.
Exactly.
There were no arguments.
And there's no reason why that should not happen again. But there's a huge backlog. There's a huge backlog of cases that has to be dealt with because, I apologise for making what appears to be a party political point, but the Conservative government deliberately slowed down the rate of processing.
Well, look, we had a plan.
Hang on a second, just quickly, guys, before you come in. Whether you process quickly or not doesn't stop the flow of those crossing the Channel, unless you start deporting. And, you know, I pay full credit to the way that Blunkett and Blair dealt with this, going back to 2003.
Well, that has to happen again.
But the ECHR has changed, the British judiciary has changed, and that's at the root of the problem.
That's the root of the problem. It's a completely different world. From 20 years ago. We've got activists. I mean, I discussed on this programme the fact that they said, in extraordinary cases, the percentage of extraordinary cases was 30%. Yeah. I mean, how can that be sensible? And the other thing I would say is that we've forgotten something here. I mean, we had a plan, the Rwanda plan, which was scrapped by this government. Now, people said, Rwanda's got all sorts of problems. But there was evidence latterly that it was a deterrent. Now, you can say how ridiculous the plan is, but at the moment, they got rid of the Rwanda plan, but they haven't substituted it with anything else. And as far as Smash the Gangs is concerned, it's laughable. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what the policy is to smash those gangs. I mean, you might know, but I don't know.
Well, hang on. You can, I mean, whenever Starmer makes a speech about this, he talks about going back to source to try and find where the boats are coming from, where they're being stored, to go down the chain that leads to people coming in this direction. But Jeff, the problem with Smash the Gangs, it's rather like saying, let's declare a war on drugs, that even if you catch every single person in that chain, the financial rewards are so great that more people come and plug the gap. And I put it to you that one of the reasons why people will continue to come is you get put in a nice house or a hotel, you get 3 square miles a day, you get free dental care, free medical care, you're allowed to roam freely. It's pretty easy to work illegally and get cash as well, despite the pocket money that you give. And when you see case after case, and these are not made-up stories, but when you see this particular example, just today's example, of somebody coming in, and he's come in from Africa, he's got child abuse videos on his phone, but the judge says, well, we're going to spare you prison because, if you go back to Yemen, they might force you to fight for the Houthis. And we see, frankly, I think for ordinary folk looking at this, just abuse after abuse after abuse, all in the name of the Human Rights Act of 1998, incorporating the European Convention.
But that is why it is necessary to deport people promptly once a process of determining their claim.
But the judge doesn't let you.
Place.
But the judge doesn't let you. In this case, the judge didn't allow deportation.
The judge had that information before her. I think it was a lady judge. Yeah. Now, the reality is, it is a matter for a judge in that situation to make a decision, but not a matter for politicians.
No, but the issue is, if the judges are making decisions not to deport, then you can try and deport as many people as you want. Yeah. But if the judiciary are saying, no, you can't deport them, then you're stuffed.
And in the case of Rwanda, when the aeroplane was on the tarmac, it was a judge at 10 p.m. in Strasbourg. So we've got ourselves in a legal...
You can't do this.
I don't doubt that when you incorporated the human rights, the European Convention of Human Rights, into UK law, it was done with the best of intentions. But it's now becoming a barrier.
We all strongly believe in democracy, but we also strongly believe in the rule of law. We cannot have a situation in which politicians decide judicial matters. That is a matter for judges.
What happened to the sovereignty?
Well, it's a matter for their interpretation.
But what happened to the sovereignty of Parliament? I know you're a recovering lawyer, or you've had some sort of legal studies in your background. I checked, and that's the problem we've got actually, is because in a way, we've substituted the rule of Parliament for the rule of judges. And that balance has got to be redressed.
And Parliament can change the law.
I was about to make precisely that point. And moreover, the law as it exists at the moment was passed by a sovereign Parliament. And that was passed by a democratically elected government. And those two things go
that
together.
was 1998. I mean, the issue now is that the circumstances today are totally different to those of 30 years ago or 27 years ago when we passed this legislation. And we've got to look at this because, as you've said, and as Nigel has said, you know, the Labour government, as was 20 years ago, was effective at this.
Did its job. There's no argument on that.
But now, I think things have changed.
And how funny that we're having this debate on the very day that Greece have announced that they're now imposing a total asylum freeze, and they are arresting people who cross onto their islands, and yet, I guess, they'll just say, if the ECHR in Strasbourg get in the way, go to hell.
But in effect, we detain people. I mean, we make sure that they cannot.
Really?
Well, we make sure that we know
the
where those people are, and they're required to remain in a specified address.
But they don't, Jeff. They don't. Increasingly, they disappear.
So the issue,
you know, the gangs pick them up. They go into criminality.
That you've mentioned, and what's changed from 20 years ago, is that there is a perception. So they're all on social media. They all see their friends living a comfortable life, and of course, social media is curated, so they will show what an amazing,
the traffickers advertise
what amazing world that they have.
Yeah.
And it's much easier, essentially, to make that journey. Yeah. And I'm afraid, you know, they come from desperately poor countries, and the deal they get here is pretty comfortable. I mean, we wouldn't want to. That's the issue. There's a big pull factor.
Deportation is the deterrence.
We all agree with that. We all agree with that.
The conditions,
it's whether we're actually able to do it.
But also the conditions of their in Britain that they enjoy are far too luxuriant.
Yeah,
it's far too generous.
They are. Well,
I mean, you know, they get to be put in a 4-star hotel. I completely agree with you.
It's a problem that damaged the last Conservative government. It's a problem that's damaging this Labour government, and it's a problem that's leading to increased public anger in this country as people, as they did at the Bell Hotel in Epping, make a connection between these young men and some of the alleged behaviour towards young women on the streets. And that's at the heart of the problem. Kwasi, Jeff, thank you very much indeed for joining me this evening. After the break, we're going to have a bit of Talking Pints with Ann Coulter, American Conservative commentator, and at times, somebody who can be quite provocative.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday Five.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
It's that time of the day. Yes, it's time for Talking Pints. I'm joined by American conservative commentator, author, broadcaster, Ann Coulter. Ann, welcome.
Thank you. So good to be here. Yes, I have my
Now, in
cocktail.
America, would you be allowed to have a drink on TV in America?
Well, they don't know what's in the mugs.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
One of my favourite personal political moments was getting up in the European Parliament after Brexit and saying, when I came here 17 years ago, you all laughed at me, but you're not laughing now. We're going to see a clip of you back in 2015 with Bill Maher on the evening show. Let's see what Anne had to say.
And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones, right now, Donald Trump.
I mean, that Coulter woman, she's so stupid. Wasn't that incredible, that reaction? I mean, mockery, laughter, derision.
And by the way, how did I know that? That was 2 weeks after. No, it was a few days after he announced. I don't think I even supported him yet. But immigration. I just written Adios America. I mean, when I give speeches around, you can't lose on immigration. I give speeches around the country. Nobody would ever ask for immigration. It would be like...
So Trump was daring to touch on this subject.
And he didn't back down, yay. And no matter what they asked me to talk about, you know, guns, Obamacare, I was living in LA. It's a big issue in California. They're way ahead of the rest of the country. Probably way ahead of England, but maybe not. And I'd always throw in as one of the topics immigration, no matter what I was... And no matter where I was, the crowd would go wild. And so I tried to tell Romney that. I tried to tell Chris Christie that. Yeah. Would they listen to me? No, but Trump knew to listen to me.
Yeah, well, you were absolutely right. And by the way, I mean, I was there in 16, just after the Brexit vote, and I went out, you know, and spoke on stages with Trump and said, we voted Brexit, you can do the same. And now he's back, and it's the second term, and he's just had, I think pretty much everybody agrees, even British newspapers that have never liked him, that this trip to the UK, this negotiation with the EU, I mean, he does get some things right, doesn't he?
Oh, my gosh. Well, he didn't do much his first term. I don't know if you're aware that we had a little falling out during his first term when he...
I was going to come to that.
He was like Jeb Bush. Anyway, whoa, I'm finally getting the Trump I voted for. Oh, my gosh, he's been
because,
great
I mean,
this term.
you know, I mean, commentators, and whether you're writing or whether you're on the telly, commentators are allowed to change their minds, but you've gone from a kind of, you know, writing a book, Trump We Trust, to some fairly disparaging comments about Trump at times.
I am what's known as principled. It's very rare in commentary.
All right, so you don't change.
I wanted the wall. I wanted mass deportations. I wanted an end of anchor babies. I wanted to bring trade back. I wanted no more forever wars. Those are the three pillars of Trump. All my friends were saying, because I was introducing him at rallies in Iowa a couple of weeks after he announced it, my friends, I mean, well, I'm in England, who cares? He is kind of a tacky Bulgarian. So all my friends were, you're nuts.
It's a very snobbish comment, isn't it?
Well, he is. I grew up in Connecticut. I've been reading about this guy forever. And all my friends were saying, you're not seriously supporting. And I said, we've been waiting our entire lives for someone to offer us this basket of issues. Yeah. And he's doing it, and he's not backing down, and I'm sorry, I'm supporting him. Yeah. And then he got in, and he listened to his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. There was no wall, there were no mass deportations. In fact, he started embracing the dreamers and, oh, they're incredible kids and they're illegal aliens, send them home.
So, and why is immigration so fundamentally important to America, but the Western world?
Well, if I could just say quickly about England, you have the most beautiful country. The whole time I'm here, I just think, why does anyone want to wreck this? Why? You're way ahead of us. You just need to deport them all.
Hang on. You can't deport people who've come legally. You can't deport people who were born here.
You can stop giving them benefits. You know, when I worked for this Senate Judiciary Committee many years ago, we had a welfare reform bill. One of the provisions was, this is when Republicans took Congress, so we could do a lot of stuff, and Clinton had to sign everything. One of the provisions was, if you're an immigrant here, including legal, you can't get welfare for 5 years.
That's common sense.
It's less than common. 5 years? How about never?
Well.
Why are you coming? And anyway, I was thinking, if most Americans hear this, they're going to be saying...
But in this country, they come over by small boat and we look after them, you know. But, I mean, your family are immigrants.
No, they are not.
They are.
Your
family arrived in America in 1633. You're immigrants.
There was no America when they arrived.
I am joking.
We are settlers. And by the way, in 1970, like 90% of Americans, black and white, it was always like 80 to 90% white, about 10 to 20% black. 90% of the people who lived there in 1970 could trace their ancestry back to that. And why does it matter? It matters for a lot of reasons. For one thing, our immigrants, legal and illegal, are accepting a lot more social services because we're not getting immigrants like we used to get before 1970. We are getting, it was designed by Teddy Kennedy. It is specifically designed to bring in the third world because the Democrats thought, fantastic, they're voting for us. Bad news is...
Are they really as cynical as that?
Well, the bad news is...
They now voted for Trump.
Well, it's not enough, but all the white Democrats are losing their primaries. So they're getting... It's all Somalis winning. The Democratic Party is not going to have any white people soon.
It seems to me the Democrats are about to move quite a long way to the left. You know, their pick for the mayoral candidate from New York. I mean, the Democrats, if they move out to the left, make it easier for the Republicans. J.D. Vance.
Magnificent human being.
He's a very intelligent man, isn't he? Normally, from this side of the pond, we look at American VPs quite often as slightly jokey type figures that we don't take very seriously. This guy we take very seriously.
Yes. Oh, and please, God, let him be our next president.
And is he the successor?
I hope so. And I mean, he's in good standing. We have to worry about Trump getting jealous of him because he is very popular. Oh, and speaking of idiot vice presidents, Trump's first vice president was that idiot.
Right. Now, you, Anne, I mean, you know, you do TV. I love the titles of your books.
Thank you.
Slander, treason, godless. I mean, you don't exactly hold back, do you? Are you deliberately provocative?
I mean, to an extent, you know, anyone who writes, you want people to read what you're writing.
Yeah.
I do the research myself. I like doing the research. I write it myself. I have no assistants to do any of it. I think they're extremely good books, and they have all been New York Times bestsellers.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of jokes in them. I want a title that's zippy.
Well, you certainly get that.
Well, Thomas Sowell, who's brilliant, one of my favorite writers, he has books with titles like Basic Economics. And I've always told him, can I give you your titles?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'd rather buy slander, and I thank you for coming and talking about it. It's a pleasure to have you. It really, really is. Now, I'm joined in the studio by Jacob Rees-Mogg, who'll be giving a State of the Nation in a moment. Jacob, what are you discussing today?
Well, I must now discuss that you have just said to somebody, are you deliberately provocative? Nigel, I mean, lots of I am going to be talking about you a bit and the standards thing and that people are coming for you and they're following Trump and they're making the same mistake as the Democrats and you might end up being John Wilkes as an aside. But I'm also, the key thing, I've got Lord Frost in, David Frost in, on the government backing down on Brexit. We're going to have EU regulations in our cars. We'll make our cars more expensive. We'll make our whole market
they're
less...
putting breathalyzers in the cars.
Yes, which I think actually will encourage drink driving. because most sensible people don't drink and drive. Now they'll be able to have an old puff in their thing, and they'll think, well, I've room for another pint.
Well, sounds all right to me.
I don't like that.
There we are. Well, look, I will not be with you tomorrow. I've got some constituency matters to attend to. And I will just say this, I'll be back next Tuesday with you. I'll have a new producer, because my producer, Mel, who's been brilliant, is doing what so many young Brits are doing. She's emigrating. She's going to Australia. And frankly, given the mess the country's in, it's very difficult to blame upwardly mobile young people from doing that. And we're losing so many of our best people. We're losing so many of our biggest taxpayers, so many entrepreneurs. We need to turn this country around. Anyway, before all of that, as it's a cricket match I'm going to, what will the weather be? Please honour Criswick.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A thunderstorm warning has been issued for tomorrow across central and southeastern parts of England, so a chance that we could start to see some travel disruption. But for the time being, high pressure remaining largely dominant, particularly across the southwest. But this at times swinging in frontal systems, so that means more cloud, also some light outbreaks of rain to end the day across Scotland. But for many, for most of the night, it should remain mostly dry. Then we need to draw our attention to areas of Wales, central parts of England. We'll start to see some showery outbreaks move their way through across dawn. And for all, it is going to be quite a mild and muggy night to come. Some towns and cities not dropping much past 17 to 18 degrees Celsius. Then during the early hours of the morning, across Scotland, once again, it's set to be quite cloudy, possibly quite murky at times. Light outbreaks of rain in western areas, but across Aberdeenshire, some of these areas of rain could turn quite heavy at times. A chance of some showers across Northern Ireland, but northern parts of England should remain mostly dry. Now, still plenty of showers across parts of Wales, perhaps some isolated showers too across parts of the southeast. And through the morning, we'll start to see more and more of these showers across the south, banding together to give persistent outbreaks of rain at times. And into the afternoon, this could also turn thundery, so we're likely to see some hail and also some frequent lightning. Also a chance we could see some thundery showers across eastern parts of Scotland and northeastern parts of England. But elsewhere, particularly across the west, there should still be plenty of sunshine. Another warm, muggy day to come, highs once again reaching around 25 degrees Celsius across the south. Now, we'll see those showers ease away Thursday night, which means a much brighter day on Friday. Still a chance of showers mainly across eastern coasts, but these should be mostly light to moderate, and it could be quite breezy at times too across eastern coastal areas, but mostly dry into Saturday. Different story on Sunday though, as we see a return of outbreaks of rain move in from the west, but still once again warm in any sunshine.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can win big, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? The holiday of a lifetime? Or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.